Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I'm informed voting. We're resuming our conversation with Dr. Aakash Shah. Greetings, Dr. Shah. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for having me, Hercules.
Thanks for being here. You had a meet and greet recently. How did that go?
Good, good. It is fun to meet and greet Hercules. It was a good conversation and wonderful to hear from the community. There's lots of thoughts on people's minds, and I appreciate the chance to hear from them directly.
That is fantastic. You had expressed a desire last time to talk to as many people as possible, so I'm
That's
glad
right.
you had the opportunity.
Yeah,
Now, for those who didn't tune into the last podcast and are tuning in for the first time, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to run for TENAFLY Council?
sure. So I'm Aakash Shah. I'm running to be one of two Democratic nominees for Tenafly Borough Council. Where should I begin? I am a parent of a 4-year-old daughter. I am a doctor, an ER doc, and we are, in the grand scheme of things, relatively new to Tenafly. We moved a couple of years ago, but as I may have mentioned last time, Hercules, we fell in love with the community. It's why we chose here, and we've only fallen more in love with each passing year. And uh, and it became apparent to me that the whole reason we moved here is because we fell in love with it, and we, in doing so, made an investment in the community. And having invested in the community, right? I think I mentioned I've got a 4-year-old girl. She's going to do all of her schooling here. She's going to grow up here. My wife and I plan to spend every year after that here, and so we've got a vested interest. And because of that, I started attending meetings, getting involved, paying attention, like really paying attention. You know, the way a doctor scrutinizes a medical chart. And when I did so, I noticed that there were questions that should be asked but weren't. There were answers that we all deserve but weren't given. And so I decided, hey, why not throw my name in the hat for council so that I could ask some of those questions, help share some of those answers, be part of the conversation.
And I commend you for that. You're stepping up the plate and you're eager to improve the quality of life of not only yourself and your family, but the other TENAFLYians
That's right.
around. Now, you said something in your recent statements now that you've only been here 2 years, and I've been to enough of the town meetings where candidates are being met, and that often is an issue for people, the length of time somewhere between Tenafly and the connection to Tenafly. How do you answer the people that say you've only been here for a couple of years?
Yeah, it's a fair question. So look, I pride myself on being a good neighbor and a good listener. And I think if you're truly those things, then 2 years is plenty of time to understand what's happening around your neighborhood and your town. And so, you know, I've been listening, and part of what I've been hearing, Hercules, is look, I hear from the neighbor down the block who says she was walking her son downtown, and he almost got struck by a car because of a design flaw. And when she reached out to the council, she didn't hear back. I hear from the longtime resident who said, "Hey, we've got a dangerous pavement situation." Reached out, never heard back. I hear from folks who tried to have a meeting on Sunday morning downtown and said there was not a single parking spot. In fact, 3 cars were double parked, and there wasn't any space or much space in the municipal lot at the end of the main street either on Washington Ave. I hear from people who, like, Hercules, you mentioned the meet and greet. We had someone come to our meet and greet with the seasonal newsletter, and like, credit where credit is due. That thing's awesome. It's great that our leadership has introduced that. But one of the things that this resident pointed out was, hey, I've been looking at these pretty closely. I don't hear any mention of some of the biggest decisions that are coming before council. And there are ways to find that information, but the general thing that I'm hearing is that people feel like they aren't seen, they aren't heard, they don't have sufficient visibility into the work of our local government. And I think that's a real missed opportunity. I mean, Hercules, I heard someone told me they really loved the weekly message, which is excellent. Again, credit where credit is due, but they said, hey, how come it feels like feels like we get 2 weeks notice for something happening downtown, but only 2 days notice for one of the biggest redevelopment projects proposed in the town's history. And and they say, hey, there were nearly 300 people in attendance when that decision was made. Um, there was a woman who midway through the live stream of that meeting jumped in her car, drove across town, and entered that meeting just so she could make her voice heard and ask her question in person in real time. And after all of that was said and done, Hercules, what I heard a lot of people say after that meeting was it was a waste of our time. A
Sorry.
waste of our time. And they said it was clear that the decision had been made long before they entered that room. And so part of what I've been hearing, Hercules, is that, again, rightly or wrongly, people feel like they aren't seen, they aren't heard. And to me, that's a missed opportunity because I think there is great work happening. And again, I pride myself on being a good neighbor, a good listener, but also a good communicator. And so I'd love to help close that gap. Anyways, my wife will be the first to remind me I talk too much. So let me pause there. Sorry, Hercules, you were mentioning something.
You're educating us and you're letting us see what's inside your head and to gauge your motivation. And that's a very important thing. Now, you said that your family's going to be here while your daughter grows up and she's going to experience all these milestones, educational and otherwise, here in the town.
Yeah.
Other than the educational system, which is one of the first things people tell you about TENAFLY in you ask, what other great things did you see about this town that of all the places you could have chosen to settle down and raise your family, what
Yeah.
made this the TENAFLY?
Oh, it's the people, Hercules. It's the people. The community. I'll look, I was grabbing coffee with some residents last weekend, and I caught one of them just before she was going to a wedding. It was a local boy who was marrying a local girl. And just as she took off, the other couple that I was having coffee with said, Akash, you know what's really special? That kind of stuff happens all the time. Like I just got back from a wedding where it was a boy who had grown up here. Three of the four groomsmen, three of the four groomsmen were kids from his kindergarten class.
Wow.
Like where else does that happen, Hercules? Like there is something special, and I see it, right? We've moved here, and if you look outside my window, there are 10 kids on a warm day, and finally it's getting warm, but they're running around, they're riding on their bikes, they're kicking around soccer balls. Like in this day and age of screens, you don't find many streets like that. You don't find many communities like that. And so I think it's the people, Hercules.
Yeah, the people are very traditional here. I'm very proud of the traditions and their past. I went to the Bronx High School of Science when I was
I didn't know that, Hercules.
high school age, and one of the other ex council people and his wife are both the Bronx Science graduates. So whenever
Yeah.
we bump into each other anywhere, a Bronx Science will come up as well as things.
It's a, it's a special place, Hercules. If I'm not mistaken, they've got like more Nobel laureates from that high school than most universities do. It's a special place.
So I'm glad that you chose TENAFLY and that you're here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Now, other than being an emergency room doctor,
Mhm.
uh, what else differentiates you from the other candidates?
Yeah. Um, I think the most obvious is that it's just me, Hercules. Like I'm not running with the backing of powerful people or interest. I'm not running with a running mate or on a slate. And it's a double-edged sword. Like when it's just me, it means that the path is narrower and more uphill. On the flip side, though, if we pull it off, it means that when a hard decision comes, the only people I'll have to answer to are my fellow residents here in Tenafly. And so we'll see how it shakes out. But I think that's the biggest difference. And then the second biggest is probably just that I'm young and have a young family. But I think that brings a healthy balance to the council, a new perspective to the council. I think institutional and community history and knowledge is invaluable, but so too are new and fresh ideas. And I think it's really in the tension between those two, in the balance between those two, that some of the best ideas are uncovered and found. And so I think those are the two things. It's just me, and so I'd be a truly independent voice representing my fellow residents, and I'd bring the perspective of a young family.
And that is a very much needed perspective. Uh,
Mhm.
in the meet and greet and in all your conversations with people that's declaring uh, your bid for office, what would you say some of the bigger issues are? What things would you definitely champion and fight for? Um,
I think the big things on my mind are the ones that you'd expect for someone who's got a young family. I I care about the impact our decisions will have on my kid's classroom. And, to be clear, that's not the purview of the council, it's the purview of the school board, but we make decisions that have an impact on it. And so I'm going to be reflexively concerned about it. I'm going to be keeping a very, very close eye on taxes. Look, I believe that budgets are moral documents, hence this idea that you don't need to tell me your values. Just show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value and the precise extent to which you value it. And in that vein, I would absolutely want to keep a close, close eye on our budget to make sure there isn't any wasteful spending and to make sure that it reflects our values as a community. In addition to that, I think a lot of what I'm hearing, and we heard it at the last meet and greet that we had, is about trees. People love how green Tenafly is. You could see it as you drive into town. And we've got one of the strongest tree ordinances around. A lot of municipalities historically have asked us so that they could copy it, but I still think there's room for improvement, right? This is what a new and fresh perspective can bring, right? Why not, for instance, have put it this way, Hercules? One of the things that jumps out to me about tree removal here in Tenafly is that the penalties for violating our tree removal ordinance are the same for individuals as they are for broad-based clearing for developers, for instance. And to me, that doesn't quite make sense, right? Because for one, that penalty might be significant, but for the other, it may simply be a drop in the bucket or cost of doing business. And so I think there's an opportunity there to have differential penalties so that we are able to preserve as many trees as possible.
there is an environmental commission that memory and records extend far beyond my memory, but I was involved in the environmental committee, and I remember there was a shift in tree removal policies at one point because there were some storms. And
Mm,
before then, there was every effort made to preserve trees, especially older trees, regardless. But the older trees caused a lot of damage,
mhm.
and so the policy changed a little bit. That's all I remember about that. But if you choose to address that, there's a very long history that it pays to become familiar with as to why certain things were decided and done. And so
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
people have to see, like I remember how many years the dog park come to being and those were conversations,
yeah,
changes in counselors and so forth that eventually it came to pass. With
yeah.
the trees too, trees are valued, as you said. And I think the Environmental Commission focuses on the trees.
Yeah. No, I think that that's a great point and great history. I think those sort of things are invaluable, and I think putting that in conversation with new ideas will lead to a way forward on not just this front, but many others. So appreciate it.
Now, before we end tonight's conversation, I want to let you know that you're welcome whenever you want to speak about anything. We'll make an appointment and I'd be honored to interview you. You're a very interesting person and you definitely care. That shows with every ounce of your being and for every word you utter. If there's anything you'd like to add later on, but is there anything you'd like to add now that I left out in my questions?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you, Hercules, and the feeling is very, very much mutual. So I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation. The only thing I'd add, and I think I may have mentioned this in an earlier conversation is, look, if you are one of the folks at home who are wondering whether or not your vote matters, I just want to be clear that it does. An election like this, probably a little over 1,000 votes, probably going to be decided by very, very few votes, tens, maybe hundreds. And so if you're not sure whether or not your vote matters, please know it absolutely does. And of course, if I could earn it, I'd be honored to.
And how can people find out more about you, your campaign, what you stand for, and how can they get involved in your movement?
Yeah, appreciate it. You can go to our website, www.akash for council, AAKASHFORCOUNCIL.com. And on there, you can learn more about why I'm running, as well as fill out a form to join us in our growing movement. And we've got a number of events coming up. We'll be at TENAFLY night this Saturday. So I'm looking forward to connecting with everyone and anyone who's interested.
Fantastic. And I started on Facebook and informed the voting Tenafly group.
I saw. Yeah.
Not joined yet because I just launched it, but it's an open group so anybody can see it or read it and participate in it. Anything you'd like to promote in terms of what you're doing, please feel free to put it there as well as the other places you put it.
Will do. Thank you for doing that, Hercules.
Thank you very much. And again, I applaud your stepping up to the plate and trying to create a better future for yourself, your family, and your community. So I look forward to following what happens, and I wish you the best of success.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Okay, take care.
You too.